Welcome. Welcome to Hardcore Productions video channel. I am Rodney Goodwin, aka Blue Pearl Oracle. There's something deep within everyone who seeks to know who they truly are. My passion and drive is cultivated by this very truth, the path to know thyself. I have come to the place where I know I can help you open the doors to dimensions within yourself you may have never tapped into. All is within, the stars, the planets, even this earth itself. My goal is to bring empowerment and healing to the individual by revealing the blueprint on the solar spiral of creation. To give you tools to unlock the doors of gnosis and high planetary magic. This work is by design to dive into the deep mysteries of astropsychology by deocculting the astro blueprint of the individual's strengths and weaknesses. In these processes, we find the answers to the why and the how. Astrology is the study of lifetimes and the most purest form of consciousness we can work with as humans. We are here to master human consciousness and bridge the gap between our lower aspects of self and our higher self, connecting to the higher force through the path of planetary alchemy. It's always an honor to read the blueprint of an individual who really wants to know who they are. It is my joy and passion to offer this service and others as we stand together on the threshold of the age of Aquarius. To connect with my website, go to hardcoreproductions.com. On Facebook, Hardcore Productions, and on email, hardcoreproductions9@gmail.com. Thanks for standing together as sisters and brothers as we take the cosmic journey together. And now, into the clips and the segment where we get into Saturn and Neptune with these clips. Much love. If you haven't figured it out yet, you're about to. The idea that something else is running your system, keeping your mental capabilities locked down so it can continue to run your mental body, all the while feasting on your essence. Look, this isn't a war between us as humans, men and women. We are dealing with an enemy within that is very, very shrouded and encapsulated in the shadow of its own existence. All the while tricking us into thinking the shadow aspect is just that. But really, that couldn't be further from the truth. As we dive into this clip, the premise of the story is taken from Plato's writing called The Cave in his book, The Republic. A good idea to read it in the allegory and partially understanding what mankind is experiencing. So now, diving into the deep waters of Scorpio, the word Neo means new, or the one, or one, who is newly born. His surname in the movie is Thomas Anderson. Taking an idea from biblical aspects, it literally means the doubting one, as in Thomas, or one who needs to see to believe. But how can one see if they've never used their eyes? And how can one hear if they've never used their ears? I mean, that's the paradox here, right? We think we're seeing, we think we're hearing, but in fact, we're blind and we're deaf. The surname Anderson breaks down in these terms to the archetype, the Son of Man, which literally means the Son of Man, used often in the Gospels as referring to the idea of the awakening of the individual. So here, things break down to the doubting Son of Man, which is what humanity is experiencing to cognitive dissonance and the ideas beyond the Tesseract lockdowns of our belief systems of control. Seemingly, these are the ideas that hold us together in what one would call sanity structures or population control programs in these fields of harvesting energies from our core as humans. What seems sane is really insanity. And until one can become neo or new or newly born, They are controlled by the parasites who feed off the essence of their core energy on the etheric levels, thus saturating them with half-truths, powdering techniques to create an aggregate full of thorns, choking out the seed being planted to real truth. I know it sounds like maybe I've lost my mind, but actually I've found it. And you can take it or leave it, but the idea of death to me has been the ultimate programming running now for aeons on this orb. When you understand what's really going on here, the idea of setting in defenses to these parasites becomes a real reality to protocols, as the real enemy is within us and not outside, hiding in the very place you would never expect, which is behind the pain of ancestral trauma in the bloodlines of the roots of our tree. Later on in the clip, listen to what Trinity says to Neo. Here, Trinity represents the tri-wave frequency to the organic. Trinity asks Neo as he opens the door to exit, as his shadow eagle tries to keep him in the same behaviors of rejection and victimhood as to what he believes or maybe doesn't even understand at that moment. As the struggle persists within Thomas Anderson, she says to him, "You have to trust me." "Why?" says Neo. Trinity answers, "Because you have been down there. You know that road and exactly where it ends. And I know that's not where you want to be." So the struggle here is between the bi-wave Metatronic AI aspect and the organic tri-wave frequencies in all of us to the path of awakening and eventually ascension. The parasite shadow eagle will always act as if it's you to keep the stranglehold on its position and feeding troughs open. It is a choice to step into a new mental position by asking why. Asking, seeking, and knocking until the truth reveals itself. As humans in the shadow matrix, this is a key to how we transmute the shadow into alignment, thus cutting off parasitical consciousness at its roots of fear, which manifests as victim and savior programming and white knight bullshit. As these electrical currents within the spine and frequencies begin to change through the alchemical processes, high planetary alchemy becomes a must to understand and work with. As you work with Saturn's energies in their true form to your South Star or South Node, where healing and mastery are taking place, the parasite is routed out through the burning fires of the Athanor, the real baptism of fire. This is the representation of Neo, or the new initiate, being debugged or deprogrammed through the process of spiritual regenesis. Later in the clip, they attempt to pull out the bug. And where do they pull the parasite from? His solar plex, his belly button. I mean, really, come on. Where the umbilical cord has been attached to, where life force energy has been poured into from the mother. I mean, come on. This is where the solar plex chakra lies. This is what happens. This is where the inroad frequencies are running to the lower level energies or the lower base self, not bridged to the heart vortex, thus keeping things sealed off to true heart cognition and intelligence. Thomas Anderson can't believe it's real, thinking it was a dream the whole time, which plays into the dream fog or miasma we are experiencing here to illusion, which is why Neptune is so important to understand and master in context to Pisces. These two orbs, Neptune and Saturn, are so important to have a clear working knowledge of as to how your system is manipulated to your moon energies, thus keeping things jammed up and your consciousness locked down, never piercing the veils of limitations to a true heart cognition with your sun. So as we watch this first clip, ponder what is really taking place here to allegory and archetype. Okay, here's the clip.
This line is tapped, so I must be brief. They got to you first, but they've underestimated how important you are. If they knew what I know, you would probably be dead.
What are you talking about? What is happening to me?
You are the one, Neo. You see, you may have spent the last few years looking for me, but I've spent my entire life looking for you. Now, do you still want to meet?
Yes.
Then go to the Adam Street Bridge.
Get in.
What the hell is this?
It's necessary, Neo. For our protection.
From what?
From you. Take off your shirt.
What?
Stop the car. Listen to me, Copper Top. We don't have time for 20 questions. Right now, there's only one rule. Our way or the highway.
Fine.
Please, Neo. You have to trust me.
Why?
Because you have been down there, Neo. You know that road. You know exactly where it ends. And I know that's not where you want to be. APOC lights. Lie back. Lift up your shirt.
What is that thing?
I think you're bugged. Try and relax. Come on. Come on. It's on the move. Oh, shit. You're gonna lose it. No, I'm not. Clear.
Jesus Christ, that thing's real!
Now, cerebrospinal fluid is made of proteins and salts in solution. And proteins and salts in solution have a charge. When you drop them in solution, they have a negative or positive charge. So now when you begin to inhale and you begin to pull that cerebrospinal fluid up towards your brain and you accelerate those charged molecules, according to physics, when you accelerate a charged molecule, you create a invisible field called an inductance field. So now there's information going from your brain to your body and from your body to the brain all the time. But when you do this breath and you start accelerating those charged molecules, you create this inductance field moving in a certain direction, and all of a sudden, all that energy from those lower centers start moving up to the brain. If you do this properly, and you have a little passion, and you start moving this fluid, there'll come a moment where the sympathetic nervous system will switch on and merge with the parasympathetic nervous system. And when that happens, all of a sudden, all the energy you use to make a baby, all the energy you use to digest the meal, all the energy you use in a stress response, instead of it being released out chemically, it's being drawn up to the brain. All that energy goes right up into the limbic brain, and it hits a gland called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is a very specific gland that makes serotonin and melatonin. And when that energy strikes that gland, all of a sudden it begins to produce very powerful metabolites, sister molecules. And all of a sudden now the brain becomes super lucid. And the brain waves that we start to measure are very, very high gamma brainwave patterns. Now the person is super conscious. Now there's more energy in the brain. When that happens, whatever's happening between their ears becomes more real, and in a sense, they're having an orgasm in their brain. They're going into a state of ecstasy. So then you're transmuting anger, you're transmuting fear, you're transmuting guilt or suffering into pure energy.
As well, too.
Pain as well. And so then the liberation of that energy, all of a sudden from this center all the way to the top of the brain, begins to create a powerful polarity, positive charge at the head and negative charge at the tail, and the body becomes like a magnet. And all of a sudden, you start to produce this invisible electromagnetic field. Now the body is liberating energy. Now, once the pineal gland is signaled, it sends a direct signal to the pituitary. The pituitary begins to release two very powerful metabolites called oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide causes the arteries in the heart begin to swell, and all of a sudden you feel an incredible amount of love. Oxytocin is the love chemical. When you feel love and gratitude, all of a sudden you're in a state of receivership.
So when you are birthed and you take that first breath, you're breathing in the cosmic solar winds. Think about it. Gravitational pull to the sun, all the planets, everything that's happening is being imprinted with the solar wind, that first breath, the ruach. So the ruach, you breathe that ruach in, you take that first breath, and immediately there's a signal sent to your mental body that says, okay, now it's time for your blueprint to be established. So when you breathe in, depending on your location, your time of birth, your place of birth, all of this comes into play here, because as you breathe that ruach in, that solar wind, and you take your first breath, the magnetic grids on the planet, because we're dealing with what? Magnetics and gravitation. So the magnetic grids on the planet are imprinted with a certain pattern in context to the astrological blueprint of that moment. So that moment is an imprint that takes place upon you with your DNA. Your DNA is magnetic as well. It's like a magnetic machine, organic machine inside of you. And so it's mutable. So, in context to epigenetics, right? So we're dealing with what's coming, what you're breathing in. So you're breathing in the ruach, you're breathing in the life force of the solar winds upon the earth that are imprinting the magnetic grids upon the planet. And so when you breathe that in, right? You breathe that in, it begins that imprinting process with your blueprint. And this is why astrology is as old as breath. Really. When you think about it, anybody who denies astrology is denying breathing. Literally. So, this is our astrological cosmic blueprint as we breathe that breath in as an infant. And so I just wanted to just give a little tidbit there on that, because we are dealing with magnetics and we are dealing with gravitation. So these are certain aspects that are in play here to our own templating and our own DNA, which is magnetic and has gravitational pull as well. So think about it. The planets, the planetary aspects are all in alignment in a certain pattern. And they're all connected to the sun. And the sun is connected to the central sun of the galaxy. So we have this connection. If you start working as within, as without, and realize that what's within you, we have this connection going on. As we breathe in, that imprint comes. And that's becomes our blueprint or our templating in context to our birth chart. That first breath is the signal. That's the signal that gets sent to your mental body. It says, now you're on your own.
There is nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are now controlling the transmission. We control the horizontal and the vertical. We can deluge you with 1,000 channels or expand one single image to crystal clarity and beyond. We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can conceive. For the next hour, we will control all that you see and hear. To experience the reaches from the deepest inner mind to the outer limits. Please stand by.
As you can see, the outer limits to our subconscious minds is where the manipulation has taken place, to the lockdowns for aeons now. Even seeing the apple in this video with the feminine force auric field as to what has been targeted. The television has been the medium to what's telling the vision within the unconscious as to what we think and feel. The case of limitations as to manipulate the frequency to control and dominate. Social media is now a major force in context to this in the transition to the procession now, as these broadcasts continue to cast spells of illusions to symbolism as seen in this video. They want you to know they control the outer limits, or multi-dimensional entities want you to know. And blatantly so, putting it out there to what they are controlling. This is a quote, "We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can conceive. We control all that you see and hear." So in short, they are the controllers and social programmers shaping the dialogue and controlling the narrative of humanity, hijacking the life force spindle of creation within us. The spindle to the 0 and to the 9 is what's up here for review now. Whoever controls the collective spindle life force of mankind controls the reality field to our present, thus creating the future to cause and effect, a fate to why the Norns weep. Many of us have seen this now, and to make the choice as to what we allow in the gates of our mind through the etheric eye and ear is a big deal. Because it's our choice to what we see and hear, having the eyes to see they have seen not, and having ears to hear they hear not. For most of the spellcasts are rooted in fear that drives the energy system to a lockdown scenario. To rule the minds of humanity is to control reality and thus continue the lockdown prison mentality, all the while the individual is the very one who holds the key to his or her own freedom. This is why state of mind is so important to vibrational correspondence and to what we are co-creating in a world of multiplicity. It's our choice and it's our right to choose life, to choose freedom, to choose morality, and once again find our way as a human race to the pinnacle of our ancient past, to our ancient future. Look inside the inner worlds are waiting to be discovered by you and me. Time is ticking and waits for no one. Saturn, Kronos, the controller of time, and the vehicle to either the manipulation to the Saturn moon matrix or to the higher vibe of Saturn, where we can tap into cosmic law and understand and work with our Saturn energies on our blueprint. Literally, this is how timelines are manipulated within the mind. If you know your Saturn and learn how to reverse the process, and you control time within your own reality, then you are coming into a form or a higher place of mastery within yourself. Eventually, as more of us begin to really see and hear, we will take back the de-evolution of man and of humanity and woman and seed the evolutionary process to our higher selves. Again, the choice is up to us. We are the ones that wield the spindle within ourselves as we take it back from the evil ones and from the dark ones who have held it for ages.